The knock came like a gunshot through my sleep, 3 hard hits on the door, and I was on my feet before my mind even caught up with my body. My heart was already slamming against my chest. Nobody knocks like that at 3 in the morning, unless something is wrong, badly wrong, and every instinct I had was screaming that I should not open that door. I opened it anyway. She was standing on my doorstep with tears running down her face, except they were not normal tears. They caught the porch light and glowed faintly, like drops of liquid silver sliding down gray skin. Her eyes were too large for her face, black at the edges and violet near the center, and they were locked on mine, with a kind of desperate hope that made my stomach twist. She was shorter than me, wrapped in a tight gray suit that looked like it belonged inside a machine, not on a person, and a thin ring of light at her throat was flickering, dimming, like a phone about to die. "Please," she said. Her voice cracked in the middle of the word. She spoke English, real English, though the sounds came out slightly wrong, like her mouth was not built for our language, but had learned it anyway. "Please, I do not have much time." I should have shut the door. Every safe, sensible part of me said, "Shut the door, call someone, pretend you never saw this." Instead, I looked at her shaking hands and the fear behind her enormous eyes, and something in me refused to slam it in her face. "Get inside," I said. "Now." She moved fast, faster than I expected, slipping past me into my hallway, like she had been trained to disappear quickly. I shut the door and locked it, both locks, then stood there with my back against the wood, breathing hard, staring at a woman who was clearly not from this world standing in my living room at 3 in the morning. "Who are you?" I asked, "and what is chasing you?" "My name is close enough to Mira in your language," she said. "There is no time to explain everything. I need 30 minutes, maybe less. After that, they will find this signal, and they will take me, and there will be nothing you or anyone else can do." "Who is they?" "My people," she said, and her voice broke on the word people, like it cost her something to say it. "I served on a ship in orbit above your planet, a survey ship. We have been watching your world for longer than you would believe, cataloging you, studying you, deciding what you are worth. I disagreed with what they decided to do next, and now I am the one being hunted." The light at her collar flickered again, weaker this time. "What did they decide?" I asked, though part of me already dreaded the answer. "That you are ready to be taken," she said. "Not destroyed, used, harvested for what your world produces, your minerals, your knowledge, even your people, treated as a resource rather than as anything with a right to choose. There has been debate on my ship for cycles about whether your species is dangerous enough to leave alone. Most believe you are not. Most believe you are small, easy, contained. I said otherwise. I said, a species that endures what yours has endured does not stay contained forever, and for that opinion, I am now marked for retrieval." I stood frozen for a moment, absorbing all of it, my brain trying to fit an alien invasion into a Tuesday night that had started with me falling asleep to the sound of rain on my window. "How long until they find you?" I said. She glanced down at the fading light on her collar. 30 minutes, maybe less now. My beacon is failing, which means soon it will look like I am gone, and they will send someone down to confirm it, or to capture me if I am still alive. "Then we use those 30 minutes, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "We do not just sit here and wait for them to come get you." She looked at me like I had said something impossible. "You cannot fight a ship like theirs. You do not understand the kind of technology they carry, weapons that could erase this entire street without anyone below ever knowing why." "I am not talking about fighting them with weapons," I said, already reaching for my phone from the kitchen counter. "I am talking about making noise. Real noise, the kind that makes it too expensive for them to come down quietly." She frowned, confused, water still glowing faintly on her cheeks. "What kind of noise can wake a sleeping street against something like this?" "You would be surprised," I said, and I began dialing. My first call was to my cousin Daniel, who worked nights at a regional radar station 2 towns over, tracking storms and flight paths for a living. He picked up on the second ring, groggy, annoyed, until I told him there was an unidentified object holding position above our part of the state, and I needed him to check it right now. He went quiet for a second, then said, "Give me 5 minutes," and hung up. My second call went to a woman named Claire, an old friend from college, who now worked with a small network of amateur astronomers who tracked satellites as a hobby, half science, half obsession. She answered, sounding half asleep, but the moment I mentioned an unusual object holding a fixed position in low orbit, her voice sharpened completely, and she said she would get her group scanning immediately. Mira watched me work the phone with an expression somewhere between disbelief and something close to hope. You think a few calls will stop a ship built to move between stars? I think your people have spent decades hiding, I said, dialing a third number. Hiding means they do not want to be seen. The moment enough people are looking at the same spot in the sky, asking the same questions, they lose the one thing that has kept them safe this whole time, which is silence. We take away their silence, and maybe that buys you enough room to survive the night. She said nothing, but she sat down slowly on my couch, wrapping her arms around herself, watching me the way someone watches a fire they are not sure will keep them warm or burn the house down. My third call went to a retired officer named Grace, who used to work with a Coast Watch unit before she retired, someone I had interviewed once for a documentary about ocean rescue teams. She still had contacts, real contacts, people who monitored airspace and coastal radar for a living. When I explained what was happening, careful with my words, she did not laugh, did not dismiss it. She simply asked one question, "Are you certain?" And when I said yes, she told me to stay on the line and started making calls of her own from another phone. Within minutes, it felt like the night had come alive around me, even though nothing outside my window had visibly changed. Voices moved between phones, numbers were shared, coordinates exchanged, small groups of strangers linking together because one person believed something strange was happening above their heads and refused to stay quiet about it. Mira's collar light dimmed further, down to barely a glow. "They will notice soon," she said quietly. "The moment my signal disappears completely, they will assume either that I destroyed the beacon myself or that I am no longer alive. Either way, someone will be sent down to confirm it." "How many of them?" I asked. "A small team, most likely," she said. "Enough to retrieve one person quietly, not enough to expect resistance from an entire species they consider unaware of their presence." "Then let us make sure they walk into a place that is very aware," I said. 19 minutes in, Daniel called back, his voice tight with something between excitement and disbelief. He had found it, he said, a faint heat signature holding a fixed position far above the usual traffic lanes, not matching any registered aircraft or satellite pattern he could identify. He had already flagged it to 2 colleagues, who were now pulling their own instruments toward the same coordinates. 22 minutes in, Claire called to say her network had picked up something too, a strange distortion in a patch of sky that had confused 3 separate observers independently before they compared notes and realized they were all looking at the same anomaly. 26 minutes in, Grace called to say a coastal radar post had also logged something unusual, an object that did not behave like weather, aircraft, or any known debris, holding steady in one place far longer than physics should allow for anything without power behind it. Mira sat up straighter with every call, watching my face as much as listening to my words, her enormous eyes tracking every shift in my expression, like she was trying to read whether hope was becoming real or simply becoming another kind of pain. "They are noticing," she whispered. "More eyes than they expected." "That is the point," I said. "Your people built 2 centuries of safety on nobody looking too closely. Tonight, a lot of people are looking very closely, all because a woman knocked on a stranger's door in the middle of the night, instead of giving up." Her light died out completely at the 31st minute. She flinched like something had struck her, and for a moment, I thought she might simply shut down with grief, but instead, her spine straightened, and something new moved behind her eyes, something that looked less like fear and more like resolve. "They will come down now," she said, "to confirm the failure or capture what remains." "Let them come," I said, and my voice did not shake, even though my hands were cold with adrenaline. "They will not expect an audience." For the next several minutes, my apartment became something between a call center and a war room. Phones passed hand to hand, Daniel patching in a colleague from another station, Claire relaying updated coordinates to her network, Grace bringing in someone from a coastal monitoring team who had once worked with defense contacts, and knew exactly which official channels to alert without wasting time on doubt or disbelief. Nobody argued about whether this was real. Everybody moved like the only thing that mattered was doing their part quickly and correctly. Mira stood by the window, watching the dark sky beyond the glass, her hands pressed flat against the frame like she was trying to feel whatever was happening far above us. "They will not risk being seen this clearly," she said, almost to herself. "Not with this many instruments pointed at the same coordinates. Even if they wanted to take me quietly, they cannot do it in front of so many witnesses without revealing far more of themselves than they intended." "Then maybe tonight they learn something new about us too," I said. "That we notice more than they think, and we move faster than they expect when something threatens one of our own." She turned to look at me, tears no longer falling, her expression somewhere between disbelief and something warmer. "I am not one of your own. You knocked on my door instead of giving up," I said. "That makes you someone worth protecting tonight." At the 34th minute, Daniel called again, his voice fast and sharp with urgency. The object had shifted position, moving lower, slower, as if preparing to descend rather than continue holding altitude. Within seconds, Claire's network confirmed the same movement from their instruments, and Grace's contact reported the same shift from an entirely different monitoring post. 3 independent groups, watching the same object begin to move at the same moment, none of them able to explain it through any known aircraft or satellite behavior. Mira went very still. "They are coming down," she said quietly. "Then we are ready," I said, though in truth, I had no idea what ready even meant against something like this. All I knew was that silence had been their greatest weapon, and for the first time in what sounded like 2 centuries, that silence had been broken. Minutes passed like hours. Daniel stayed on the line, describing the object's descent as it dropped through altitude bands most aircraft never touched, moving in ways that made no sense for anything built on ordinary engines. Claire's network tracked the same descent from a different angle, comparing notes in real time, refining coordinates, confirming the same impossible movement over and over. Then, almost as suddenly as it had begun, the object stopped descending. It held position far above the ground, hesitating, as if reconsidering. "They see us," Mira whispered, and there was something almost like wonder in her voice now, mixed with old, worn-out fear. "They see how many are watching." Grace called in to say her coastal contact had picked up a brief, strange burst of interference across several monitoring frequencies at once, gone as quickly as it appeared, the kind of interference that usually meant something powerful had activated and deactivated in a very short span of time. Then, nothing. The object stopped moving entirely, hovered for a long, tense stretch of time, and then began rising again, climbing back through the same altitude bands it had just descended through, faster this time, as if in a hurry to leave. Daniel's voice came through the phone almost breathless. "It is pulling away. Whatever it was doing, it is retreating." Claire confirmed the same thing seconds later. Grace's contact confirmed it a moment after that. Mira sank down onto the couch, her hands trembling, staring at nothing for a long moment before she finally spoke. "They will not risk taking me while this many instruments are watching," she said. "Doing so would mean admitting, clearly and undeniably, that they are here, that they have been here, and that your world noticed enough to react in force within minutes. My people have spent so long avoiding exactly that outcome. Tonight, you made that outcome unavoidable." "So they left," I said, still trying to process that it had actually worked. "For now," she said quietly, "they will not stop searching entirely, but they will not risk another attempt so soon. Not after tonight. Not after seeing how quickly your people organized against something they were never supposed to notice at all." I sat down across from her, my legs finally giving out from the adrenaline draining out of my body all at once. For a long moment, neither of us said anything, the silence in my apartment feeling strange after everything that had just happened outside it. "What happens to you now?" I finally asked. "I do not know," she admitted. "I have no ship, no beacon, no way home even if I wanted one. I have only the choice you gave me when you opened your door, instead of turning me away." "Then we figure out the rest together," I said. "One step at a time, starting with getting you somewhere safe before morning." She looked at me with an expression I had not seen from her all night, something steadier than fear, something almost like trust. Grace called back one final time to say she had already spoken with someone she trusted completely, someone who worked quietly with matters far outside ordinary daily life, someone who could help arrange safety and a new identity without drawing unwanted attention. Within the hour, a car would arrive to take Mira somewhere secure, somewhere she could begin adjusting to a life she never expected to need. Before she left my apartment that night, she paused at the door, the same door she had knocked on with tears streaming down her face only an hour earlier. "Your people have a strange kind of strength," she said. "Not in weapons, not in size, but in how quickly you gather together when something threatens even one stranger you have never met before." "That is usually how it works," I said. "One person decides not to look away, and somehow that decision spreads faster than anyone expects." She almost smiled then, the first real hint of one I had seen from her all night. "Perhaps your file was right after all," she said softly. "Perhaps you truly are a furnace nobody has lit yet." "Then let us hope nobody lights it by accident," I said. She left with the car Grace arranged, disappearing into the last hour before sunrise, leaving me standing alone in my doorway staring up at a sky that looked exactly the same as it always had, giving no hint at all of what had just happened above it. I never expected that a knock at 3 in the morning would change how I saw the world, or how small this world truly was compared to what waited quietly above it. But I also never expected that 30 minutes of phone calls to people I trusted could turn a single frightened stranger into someone worth protecting, and could turn a night meant for sleep into the night an entire hidden watch above us learned exactly how quickly humanity moves when someone finally knocks on the right door.